Should be live. Let me just make sure this goes through. We're good to go.
Okay. And there is no Raymond. Yeah, it is. There it is. Great. Okay, we're live?
Yes, we're live.
Okay. Good evening. It's November 7th. And the time is now 6:34 p.m. And this is a facilities committee meeting. We'll start out with introductions. We'll start out in the room. Luke?
My name is Luke Johnson, Network Administrator.
Lisa
Raymond, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Dennis Pugliese, Director of Facilities.
David Warner, Board Member.
Katie McGee, parent of a 10th grader.
Will Simon, Community Member.
And online, Mike,
Mike Messina, BBS Architects.
Jessica,
Good evening, Jessica Muldoon, parent of a 1st grader and a 4th grader.
Ray,
Ray Macedo, Hartsdale Fire Chief.
Francis,
Melito, 7 Engineers, Construction Manager.
Sarah,
Hi, Sarah Lazari, parent of 2.
Gabriella,
Hi, Gabriella Barahona, mom of 3, 5th grader, 3rd grader, and kindergartner.
anybody I missed? Okay, we'll get started. And the first order of business is to have a Q&A with the Hartsdale Fire Chief, Ray Maceda. And Mr. Maceda, can you tell us about the history of water flow problems on the Woodlands campus?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty typical for a water system that's over 100 years old and really hasn't had any upgrades or maintenance. It was built to originally serve the mansion and the associated buildings. There's been water flow problems up there for a long time. We discovered the most recent issues, which was a dramatic drop from, anywhere between 1,700 and 1,500 gallons a minute down to 250 gallons a minute. So to give you an idea of what that looks like, the buildings that are on the campus, the middle school, the high school, they're all rated by the insurance services offices, fire protection engineers, with how many gallons a minute they need if there was a fire in the building. And they run between like 2,000 and 3,000 gallons a minute, right? So that's roughly the size of a backyard swimming pool in about 5 minutes. Right now, what you have is barely enough to have one fire hose in operation. So that's the issue that we're confronting. We just don't have enough volume of water in the case that there was a fire in the building, and it takes kind of extraordinary measures on the fire department's part to try to put water where it needs to go, right? So we're pumping water from fire hydrants that the town owns almost half a mile in order to get to those buildings. And that requires, 4 to 5 engines per line. Each line that I can put down is about 1,000 gallons a minute. So I'm behind the 8 ball from a time perspective, and I'm behind the 8 ball from enough water perspective. So really from the fire department's perspective, it's really easy. I need enough water to come out of the fire hydrants in order to take care of an emergency, and there just isn't enough.
Now, there was a water main break in about 2018. I don't know if you're familiar with the Fill for Fields project that we did in order to get an AstroTurf football field. We allowed some fill to be brought to our place and spread out, and they brought us about twice as much fill as they contracted for, and they piled half top of our gas line and our water line. That's like I guess where the soccer field is now. And it broke the gas line so that we didn't have gas at Woodlands. And then and the water line lasted for a while, and until about 2018, it sprang a leak, but it was under 30 feet of topsoil. So we went and reconnected instead down to Dalewood Drive, right? So you have could you bring up the existing conditions
Sure, 1 second.
report?
Which one is that? Low tests?
No, flow tests are Chief
Water.
Mercedes, just, yeah, that one, bring that up. Okay, so let's see.
1 second, wait, let me share this screen.
Okay, so you see the pond in the middle is just at the west side of Woodlands, the buildings. And then there's a little vertical line that goes from right, yeah, where it says 5 to 265 gallons per minute, and you're asking for thousands, and okay. And then, so then it goes straight down to Dalewood and the north-south, and there's and that's where the water service came in. That's what we replaced it with, and that's when we got enough water to run the bathrooms and that sort of thing. But I don't think 261 gallons per minute is anything like your 1,000-gallon requirement. Do you know did the water pressure drop a great deal before and after 2018?
So just so we're clear, right? There's two components to water. There's pressure, and then which is like how much force it's coming out with. And then there's flow, right? Which is how much water is coming out. So if you get, just to give you an idea, if you put your finger over the end of the garden hose and you kind of choke it down, right? It comes out faster. That's pressure. When we're dealing with buildings of, 91,000 square feet or so, which is one of the buildings that's there, I need quantity, right? I need as much water as I can. It went down dramatically after our measurements in, I think, 2018, 2019 timeframe. And they went down from, historically they were at the 1,700 gallons a minute. They kind of tapered off down to 1,200 gallons a minute. And then ultimately the last readings that we took were around 250 gallons a minute. So roughly, 10% of the previous flow that we had seen.
Okay. And then I see way out there on Pinewood, it looks like there's a measurement of 4,000 gallons per minute. So that's a source of pressure, because that's close to where we used to connect.
Right. So that's where the town water system is. And
okay.
That's and that is, yeah, pretty accurate. We're talking about with the mains that are in the ground there, we're getting about 4,000 gallons a minute.
Okay. And if I look on the other side towards Stone Oaks, what does that say? 441 gallons per minute on Pacapone?
So the hydrant that is near Pacapone is also upwards of about 2,000 gallons a minute. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but
okay, so this
definitely on the larger side.
Is not okay. Accurate. Okay, fair enough. Yes.
I have a question. I understand the principles of pressure and flow and everything, but right now, today, what are the current dangers to students and property right now, today? What would you identify those dangers are?
What we're fighting against is time, right? That's really the issue. Fires grow roughly 10 times every minute. right? It grows exponentially. So what ends up happening is the more time things take to put in place, in this case, putting a water system in that I have to put in using fire engines, the larger the fire grows, the more the risk grows, right? We've done a lot of work to make sure that we can put those systems in place, but all of that takes time. The staff has done a good job in terms of doing fire drills and making sure the kids know where to go and getting them out of the buildings and everything else. But there's nothing that I can do about the time that it takes for me to get water into the building in order to put out a fire. So we've trained on it. We do as quickly as possible, but we're still talking about a 15-minute, to 20-minute operation for me to get enough fire trucks there in order to put down enough hose from either Stone Oaks Drive or from Dalewood Drive, depending on where we're going, up to the entrances of the buildings.
Okay,
That's
so,
dangerous time.
okay, so the danger as we see it today, it takes you between 15 and 20 minutes to get your staff in place to fight the fire. And we know that's a long time for fire. Okay.
Is 6 fire engines daisy chained together?
Depending on where it is, we have it runs between 4 and 5.
Okay. Admit, make it happen.
Oh, sorry.
So is the pond next to the Woodlands, this is a question from a previous meeting. Is the pond next to Woodlands Middle High School a suitable water source for fighting fires? Because you see that it's right there. It's not full at the moment, but will it work?
The short answer is no.
And
that
why not?
pond is a runoff pond, right? So like basically all the storm drains from the parking lots that are above it kind of run into it. And it's made to kind of just catch storm water and then kind of release it. It's mostly mud. It's not deep enough, and it's not made for fire protection.
Okay, could you bring up the picture of the pond?
Trustee Warner, is that the pond that's outside my window?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So you can see that it's not full. There are herons and bullfrogs and geese come and feed, and I think snapping turtles wallow in the mud. So it's kind of a natural environment. It's but it's low and yeah, it is clogged. I think I have a map here.
Sure. Hold on. This.
Yeah. Okay, so if you look at your GIS survey map, the silhouette is the brown stuff. But I went and measured depth and all that, and it's only a certain subset of that that's actually not mud clear to the surface. So you would recommend that we not count on that in any of our plans?
Not only can you not count on it, I don't have the equipment to suck mud out of a pond and then use that for firefighting. It's just
okay. So, all right, eliminates that. Okay, and I guess my next question was going to be, what do you think of the recommendations that we're going to present here tonight? Can you stay on the line? How long have you got?
I have to leave at 7.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions before we go to the main event of the night?
I think we're leaving at 7. I think
we got to go. All right, so bring up the agenda. The water main project adds fire hydrants and increases water flow to acceptable levels for existing hydrants on the Woodlands campus. The science lab project renovates all 9 science labs at Woodlands Middle High School. The Board of Education agreed to schedule a public vote on January 14th, 2025, to release 9.5 million from our capital reserve fund to replace the Woodlands campus water mains. It's a $2.9 million project, and renovate the science labs, a $7.4 million project. However, we discovered that the capital reserve fund has $3.5 million encumbered for roofing projects. So we're short $1.1 million if we empty the fund. And you can see there's a little equation there. The column on the left is what we thought we had, which was we do both projects and have a balance of $2.4 million. But really, the 3.5 is laid aside for the phase 2 roofing project. And therefore, if we subtract the water main project, we've got 6.3 million, and then we take the 9 science labs and we end up $1 million in debt. Can't do that. So now something's got to give. We got to cut back on the water main project, and farm it out to the future year, or we've got to cut back the science labs.
Okay,
Yes.
we have to leave it set before we can make a rational decision how, if we should cut the water main project or not. We need to have a full understanding of the water main project. So let's focus on having a full understanding of the water main project. And if we cut funding, what impact that will have on the water main. So once we fully understand the water main project, we've been in a better position to say, should we go full throttle or cut? Because so I think it's absolutely important that we let the fire chief explain the water main project.
We will have the architects and the fire chief both explain the project, and we'll start with the architect, with the engineer actually, and then Raymond Maceda can opine on what he thinks of the options. Okay, Mr. Messina. Please bring up this
That one?
diagram. Yeah.
Believe it's.
No, not this one.
No, hold on. It's loading up, sorry.
That's okay. Just so while he's loading up that page, just so everybody on the call knows and in the room knows, Mr. Maceda and myself and our engineer did the design. We met and talked last night about the project, and came up with some good solutions to kind of stage the project depending on how much money you want to put towards it. As everyone knows, we went out to bid twice on the project. Both times the numbers came in over budget, well over budget. So we have an idea that the entire project, the way we originally designed it, was around $2.8 million to award it, and give yourself some contingency money there once construction started. After I go over this page with everybody tonight, you'll see that there's dollar values assigned for different colors on the map, and the total sum of the design is now around $2.2 million. So we tried to shave it down as much as we can, eliminating some of the loop work, tying into other roads and other points of the campus. So if you can just zoom in on that page for just a second, if you can zoom in tight to the colored keys on the, yep, that's perfect. And you can scroll up. Yep. No, the other way. Sorry.
No, we don't care about the printing. We care about the diagram.
Yeah,
there.
Perfect. Yep. So on your left-hand side where the arrow is on the map, that's Pat Capone Road. So the main entry into the campus there is highlighted in yellow, and you'll see the red dots that are numbered represent either the existing hydrants or the new hydrants labeled as new. So in our original design, we were coming into Pat Capone Road and we were following the yellow path there, and we were tying into the existing hydrant, the very first one that you see on the page on the left there, and it was going in towards the intersection. After last night's discussion, it was requested to add an additional hydrant adjacent to the bus garage, the transportation building, which I guess could also serve the ECP building across the street. So we added that new hydrant, which is represented by number 2. So that yellow run encompasses roughly 1,250 linear feet of new piping. It also includes the tie-ins to the existing hydrant and the one new added hydrant. And it includes a new meter and pit, because there is obviously you have to tell how much water is going through the system, right, for cost. So that total budget is $700,000. We feel that the original budget that we had for the project should be able to encumber that line at a minimum, with no additional funding being brought in from a future vote in January. All right. Any questions about the first line? Okay, I'll continue. So the next option, I'm going to go towards the green line, which goes towards the high school, middle school. That line is roughly 1,150 linear feet, and that's tying into a new hydrant that was proposed, which is down by the retention basin you were just looking at in the photos there. That cost is roughly, we're budgeting $450,000. So that would be additional funds that we would need to have included in the future vote.
So that ends up down by the cafeteria and on the back side of the high school?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the delivery driveway that takes you back to the backside? Good.
Yes. Yep.
Exactly. So that would be an additional $450,000. The next line that I'll talk about is I'm going to skip over to the purple line because we're over at the high school now. So that line comes out from the intersection of the road, and we were proposing to add a new hydrant, which is labeled as number 6 there on the page to the left of the high school there. And it also would tie into an existing hydrant on the right-hand side labeled as number 7. So that purple line is about 900 linear feet, tying in the 2 hydrants, and the total budget is about $450,000.
And that's the front driveway in front of the high school, correct?
Yep, exactly. So that will give you additional hydrant at the high school, and it would tie into the existing hydrant. The next 2 lines, if you want to scroll up just a little bit. So now if you're going back towards Pat Capone Road, the blue line represents the tie-in now from the intersection to an existing hydrant, which is just out in the middle of the road over there, along the property line. That encompasses 550 linear feet, and then we have a budget of $275,000 for that portion of the line. The last line, the red line, represents the line that goes around the corner now and up towards the mansion. And there's an existing hydrant that's there that's labeled as number 5. That would be 650 linear feet and a budget of $325,000. That portion of it, the blue line and the red line, I would recommend that you do that work if you don't have the funds, like it sounds like there's a shortfall, if you were going to do a future project with the mansion. Right now you don't have an active CO for the building. When it was closed up a couple of years ago, prior to my involvement with the district, there's a fire sprinkler that needs to be reinstalled there. There's a bunch of things that we know we need to do to the building. So while we do that, if we're budgeting money towards a project in the future for the mansion, I would recommend adding those 2 lines to that budget to handle that. You still have coverage now. There's still piping going down there to feed the existing hydrants that are in there. We're not touching any of that, or proposing to touch it as part of this first phase of the project, but that could be something you can do later on. The other part that I would consider for tonight is that the purple line is something you could also do later on. The green line, I think, is the second most important part of the project, with the yellow line being the primary to start. Because you do still have coverage at the front there with that existing hydrant number 7. And we would be adding a new hydrant along with the green line, which gives you the coverage at number 1. So encompassing, like I said before, the entire scope, we feel about 2.2 million to do what's shown on this drawing. And what it omits is the work towards the east, which are the other driveways that tied into the residential line. And I forget what the name of the road is on the far east side of the property. Highwood, thank you. So it omits that original scope that we had added in the design, whatever it was, 2 years ago. And
Mr. What do you think of the idea of this project in this way? I heard from you earlier that maybe the pressure from the West Hartsdale side is higher than it showed on our pre-existing conditions diagram. Are we okay with losing the pressure from the east side? Hello?
I think you're on, Ray. I think you're on mute, Ray. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
You know, this is one of those projects which unfortunately is not very sexy, but they're kind of important. Anything that's going to get you closer to the buildings is going to be a vast improvement over what you have now. So if you're looking at that yellow line omits 2 fire engines right there and probably about 10 minutes of time. So, you know, 7 minutes of time. So that's going to get me a lot closer to the front door of the auditorium area. That's going to get me a lot closer to the boiler room around the back where the loading dock is. And that's going to get me a lot closer to the mansion. So, you know, this is one of those, you know, because of the cost of the project, I understand that the school district wants to stage it. This gets us part of the way there, and it helps out tremendously.
Okay, so that's a generic, that's a blessing of both the project and the concept of starting from the, of cutting off the loop to the right-hand side. That's correct? Yes.
Okay. if Mike's nodding, I think I'm okay.
Yes.
You know, the one thing that I just want to just kind of point out, the purple line, which is what feeds the auditorium area, those lines would probably be my choice to go, let's say, second, as opposed to going all the way down to the back of the boiler room. Only because that's where that's the easiest access for my fire engines to get access into the building. And that's where the most kids are going to be, right? That's where the classrooms are. So
priorities are yellow, then purple?
Correct, right? So that those two would have to interconnect. But that's really, you know, if I was gonna say you need to do this first and second, I think that's the way that I would go.
Okay, and then yellow, purple, then green, and then blue and
yes.
Okay.
And I agree. I agree with Mike that rolling in the other work in terms of the blue and the red lines into a future mansion project would probably be the most effective way of kind of allocating your funds.
Okay.
Just with the caveat that if anything happens in the mansion between now and then, it's going to be a lengthy operation. It's a really old and really complicated building, and it's going to be a difficult fight if we end up having a fire in that building.
Okay, so let's see. You answered, is it a good option? You talked about, okay, so we'll determine a first year, second year choice based upon your priorities. We can just add up the numbers. The cost for the first year portion less than or equal to 1.8 million. Yes, we'll make it less than the capital, okay. We'll use the 800,000 that we already have to do the yellow portion. And then we'll take money out of the capital reserve to do as much of the rest as we can this year. And then there will be a little bit of an inflation that's added to whatever options fall onto the next year. And then we'll figure out how much money we have to complete the project. Okay, so I think I have what I need. Are there any questions from the floor?
No, answer my question.
Okay, yes.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So if we do this, like, okay, the other plan,
Mm-hmm.
right, that we've been working with,
Mm-hmm.
that went through NICEAD, was ready, you know, it'd be ready to bid if we went ahead and approved that plan. This plan would have to go back to NICEAD?
Both plans have to go to NICEAD.
No,
The
no,
plan is-
David, that's not the case. You have a permit to do the work. You have a permit to do the entire campus, the way we showed it. We're just kind of chopping it up into pieces, into segments, so you can budget the project according to how you can fund it.
We can cut off the entire east source and not go back.
Correct. Correct.
Wow, okay, I was wrong.
And with the addition of the new hydrant in this plan, that doesn't, so you're saying we don't have to start from zero?
No, we don't have to start from scratch. We would send up an amendment, addendum to show an additional hydrant, but you wouldn't have to go through the entire 6-month original waiting period to get your New York State Education Department review of it. It would simply be, we're adding a hydrant at the request of the fire district. It serves the campus, and here's what we're doing, and it just goes on the record set of documents that we've already submitted. So it's a good thing.
Okay,
So,
great.
yeah, so I just want to reconfirm, this whole project is approved. We're just building it in sections, but there's no other permits and things we have to go through.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. There's one thing that we spoke with Ray about last night is that, and I think you're going to be grandfathered in, and I'm not the subject matter expert, so just forgive me. Fred couldn't make the call tonight, but the lines currently serve your domestic water as well on campus. So there's tie-ins, as you know, which also drove the cost of the project out that we learned later on, that gives water to different parts of the campus there, different buildings. When we put in a new meter or we do any kind of work like that, sometimes the health department is going to make you potentially put in an RPZ valve at that location where the domestic water is going in. I think we might be grandfathered in. We didn't get a chance because this was just asked of us, yesterday morning to look at this again, and last night. So there may be, as part of that addendum, to add an RPZ, the valve device into there to do that with the water authority. So, but that's something that we need to still determine.
Okay.
The
Board
town,
members, I just want to let you know, I do have to go. So if there's any quick questions that I could answer before I sign off.
Anybody online want to ask any questions? Anybody in the room? Go ahead.
One question, Chief, thank you. Going down the road there where the fire hydrant in the purple, would you be recommending later on if we do the science wing, which is on the other side, would there be a need to extend the purple down to the front of the science wing? Or would that be enough?
So there's an additional hydrant that's not actually part of the project, that's down by the auditorium, that is also usable, that if that purple line got tied in, would also feed that line. That's between the hydrant that is on the plan at the end of the green line and the other hydrant that's by the auditorium, that pretty much covers everything that we need.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Okay, folks, thank you. I'm sorry I have to run, but if there's anybody who has any other questions, feel free to contact my office and I'll be happy to answer.
thank you, Mr. Messina.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening.
Good evening. Okay, so for anybody who didn't, who has the hard copy agenda, if you bring up the agenda, we have the costs that are actually the legend on, a copy of the legend. And we have a multicolored chart. Right. So there,
It should be 2.4.
anything,
With 10% should be 2.4, not 2.4.
Total.
Total should be 2.4.
okay, which?
You said that the cost is 2,200,000 with a 10% increase,
Yeah, it should be.
2.4.
But you add up.
2.4, whatever.
Okay. However, we're not gonna do that. We're going to do part of it without any of the 10% increase. And, okay, so yellow first, right? Is 700,000. And then the second one is purple, which is 450,000.
Just, I'm sorry to interrupt for a minute. If we do the purple next, there is a section of the green that we need to do with that. Just to keep that in mind.
Right, the yellow and the purple have to connect by the green.
Correct.
Yeah.
Those three.
So in other words, we have to do those three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to see, trustee Warner, you have to do it at least to the V.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a little less than half of the green to get to that.
But we have to come out with less than $1.8 million, right? And as long as the sum of those three things is less than $1.8 million.
It is, that's 1.6.
1.6.
Wait, can you explain?
450
If we did yellow, green and purple,
plus
that's 1.6 million.
What's the 1.8?
1.6.
No,
Yep.
1.6. Yellow, green and
Oh,
purple.
I understand that, but I mean, why did we have the cap of 1.8? Wait, 1 million, why did we have the 1 million?
So we have-
capital reserve?
We have 0.8
That
in
is a
that we've already had from
Right.
another source.
Right,
And then we can take $1 million and still do all the science labs
oh,
by draining the capital reserve fund.
so you're saying, okay, so this is hinging on a discussion we haven't had yet, but about still proceeding with the 7.4 million for the science lab.
Correct.
We would be able to spend up to $1 million on this hydrant watering.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're saying, and then you guys said yellow, green, and purple was 1.6.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that sounds like our best option for if we decide to cut back on this project. Now we have to figure out what will happen if we decide we want to do the entire project. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I was gonna ask. If we didn't do the blue and red and even the rest of the green. Yet, when would we do it?
Okay, my thinking is next year. Lisa,
Yes.
on an average basis, how much money are we able to save from the budget at the end of the year? Because we plow whatever we have left at the end of the year above 4%, and put it into capital reserve. So can you give us a ballpark?
I would say that we, on average, have been able to put in, at least 1.5 million. So I'd say it would be between 1.25 and 1.5 million.
Okay, and with the understanding that the teachers' contract negotiations are ongoing and things are happening. Okay. All right, so then the blue and the red at 2026 is 600,000 and change. Right?
Yeah.
So we can do the second half if we authorize it, next year.
So we do the complete green and purple and yellow, and then blue and red the second year.
Yep.
Blue, red, and purples.
Blue, green, and purple.
Yeah.
Blue, green, and purple the first year.
And blue and red.
Oh, okay, that's right. We took the purple out of sequence, right? Yellow, green, and purple.
Right.
That's right. We changed that. And then blue and red this time. Okay.
Okay, so that seems like a viable option.
And Trustee Warner, you have 3 people who have raised their hand.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay, so thank you for walking through all the steps on if we adjusted the water main project. I would like to propose discussing reducing the science lab project. Hearing the chief say that without those 2 portions, the mansion would probably experience extensive damage. If there was extensive damage on the mansion, I would probably assume there would be disruption to students going to school. So that even if it's just a few days or whatever, but like what would be the added cost of any sort of fire on the campus, which I think is something none of us want to even contemplate right now. That the safety, and you know I'm a super strong advocate of all these science labs.
Yep.
The safety piece, I don't think we can put off, and knowing that the money, or hearing this, I would ask us to move to discussing a potential small adjustment to the science.
Okay. That's what we're about to do. Gabriella?
Sorry, my screen froze. Echoing on Jessica's thoughts and what tying into what you just said, David, where my head is, the shifting around, let's assume for a second we push these 2 hydrant lines to 2026. I'm trying to remember what else, when we spoke about the capital reserve, what else was that balance, I guess, potentially we were looking to use for? Like, what do we basically, like, gets put on hold because now we're shifting? I don't know if my question makes sense. What is being put on hold because we would potentially push this expense to another year?
So we're working down our queue, and the queue has refurbishing the mansion and the soccer fields, and right, and I think building envelopes, right. So those are in the queue, and we work our way, down the queue, and the signs happen to be at the top of the queue.
Right.
So yes, of course, it's a loss in our long-term agenda anytime we have to regroup.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not I mean, I thought at one point it was said that depleting our capital reserve was not a good idea. But I'm struggling with, I think safety, like what Jessica said, is very important. I get both projects are, but I don't know if, we can really jeopardize the safety piece. I guess my preference would be not to push that to a future year.
Okay. Then we'll explore the other options. Megan?
So my understanding was it's a new hydrant at Woodlands Middle School, High School, which then it would be closer to the mansion, right? The what is it? The red and the blue are existing hydrants that are there currently and do have water flowing to them currently. So when we do add the new lines, it's just a pressure change. We're not adding new fire hydrants to the area by the mansion. Is that correct?
The,
That would be correct.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think the hydrant, there's no new hydrant. The problem, all right, when I talked yesterday to the fire chief, he said that the fire hydrant in front of the mansion had such low pressure that it was rated at 0 gallons per minute because he felt if he hooked up his pump, he would collapse the line. He'd suck the water out too fast and the pipe would go down. So it was essentially useless to him at its existing rate. So yeah, we're exposed. So yeah.
So doing the yellow and the green lines, those lines will not run into red and blue at all until we do the red and blue? Like they'll be separate lines?
Correct. Correct, yes. There's a junction points along the road where they'll put in a T, to do future tie-ins and cap it, or tie it back into an existing line that's already there, if that's the case. But yes, and just keep in mind the line in red that goes up to the mansion, that line is probably, I'm guessing, over 100 years old. That's so the sediment that builds up in there, the effective diameter of that pipe now today is probably a tenth of what it was when it was originally installed. So any change of pipe is going to increase the pressure there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
yes,
a comment. Also, like where the pink line is the new proposed fire hydrant.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the front of the building, you can actually see where the steps go to the student
right
upper staff
the
lot.
crosswalk there, yeah.
The mansion it's fairly close. If you hook up one truck to that, it's not as far as the distance because the mansion is actually right there. And it's, if Chief Messina said it took for every 2 trucks it would save 10 minutes, you're probably
2 trucks away.
Yeah, you're one truck, or I can't
One
see
truck
if
will pump to
one
the
truck will
truck.
probably do it. I can't
The
see it being more
park-
than 2 to the mansion. Because that parking lot, if you hook up there, you could drive away the trucks right around the side and you have one truck to the hydrant and the other one to the mansion area. It's a lot closer than it looks if you're going through like the blue and the red the other way.
Gabriella?
Hi, sorry, just a, I guess, follow-up question. I'm struggling to remember, but when, I guess, how was it figured out that there was already a portion of the reserves earmarked for the roofs?
How did we figure out that there was a portion of the reserves earmarked for the
Yes.
So, when we were doing some work and some reconciling and putting together a spreadsheet, it was realized that when we went to the taxpayers for the phase 2 project and the proposition that the 3.5 million was earmarked and not included in the spreadsheet.
And we have a report that we were supposed to be getting on a regular basis. It's supposed to talk about the amount of each fund and how much, whether it's encumbered. And there was a part of it was missing. And so we have corrected that so that this problem will not reoccur.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay, so moving on. Splitting or delaying the science lab, it says, it's the next page. Okay, so you can see in this chart, we have the version of the options we looked at for the science labs. When before we thought we had lots of money, we were busily looking at options for chopping up the project in various ways. The first option there, the 9 labs full project of there's the $7.4 million that's this year. So if we split the water main project, that's what that's what we do. We would then have the capital reserves for that. But if we don't split the water main project and stay with the beginning, with the as originally planned, then we need to use one of the other options. And whatever happens, we'll do half of it. Then we'll do the second half. There will be inflation between 25, 26 and 26, 27. And so they're kind of paired off between the second floor and the first floor, or we'll figure out which order we want to do that in, or the east side and the west side. And yes.
We have tentatively made a decision that, we could go with the yellow, the green and the purple, tentatively. Based on that decision, how much money then becomes available for the science lab? And then we could figure out, once we know how much money is available, then figure out whether or not we still wind up with a negative in our reserve. And then if we still wind up with a negative in the reserve, then we have to go back to the science and make decisions on cutting. But before we make a decision on cutting, we should know how much is the potential amount we have to cut.
If we go with yellow, purple, and green with the 1.6 million, then we don't have to cut back on the science lab.
I don't know, I got a new phone, don't know how to work it. I just got it yesterday. I apologize.
So if you go back to an earlier page with the capital reserve chart on it, you can right, so 1.6 instead of 2.1, right? 8.4 minus 1.6. Right, see. So you don't end up with a negative total at the bottom. There. Okay, 8.4 minus 1.6 equals 6.8. Wait. Minus 7.4 equals negative 0.6. So then we'd still have to,
Were you subtracting the
So we should-
800,000?
oh, the 800,000, that's what's wrong. Was. Eight equals 0.2. So we end up with we end up with $200,000 left in our fund, capital reserve fund.
What is, okay.
We did that.
Okay. Is that an acceptable number or what, you know? How do we,
As far as I'm concerned, I'd spend all I could out of that reserve fund, but I don't, I mean, we have 4% of our operating budget that we save each year for emergencies, and we can always pull from them. What, yes,
I noticed in like the project list, and I think Mike or somebody had said it before, but you're gonna need to do environmental testing for the caulking. That was like a very, that was just an estimate. That testing hasn't happened yet, right?
We just, I reached out to the environmental people to, we got a proposal today, so he's gonna be doing the testing to evaluate and see how much, he's already done some testing in the building, but now that we're gonna go with the scope around the windows and he's gonna test all the rooms a little further, but he has a pretty good base of what's in the building now. But we do have a proposal just to, went out today that's for him to do some more extensive testing, like you know, the lab tables, they were suspected, but now if we're gonna be a total gut, then okay, they wanna know the lab tables, the material that's in an asbestos containing material. And
I know the floor tile is.
correct, yeah, we've known about that, but there's other things he's gonna look into now that to positively identify the suspected things. So that's why we have a big scope for the architects to get the number closer to where it's gonna stack.
Yeah, so it's a potential increase in the costs. The potential. In the estimate, correct?
That's correct. We assume some asbestos, and we look at your HERA reports in conjunction with whatever testing is provided before we do the budgets. But if there's extensive, it's really the windows too. If there's extensive caulking, that's all hot. If we're going to be removing all those perimeters, it's going to add some money to the job that $150,000 won't cover. So the more information we can get on it, the better.
Megan?
So, I think originally when we were talking about the capital reserve and this project, right, the cushion of the $2.4 million balance left over, we had talked about, trying to do something else in the future, but we knew that money was going to continue to grow, so it would never kind of be zero in that fund. So I guess my question is, I don't remember currently, like, what is our emergency fund if not the capital reserve? Because we know that our buildings continue to fail in different ways and unexpected ways. So what is our cushion that we do have built in outside of the capital reserve?
There's repair reserve and there is the 4%. The fund, the operating budget, we can use it if it's an emergency. Lisa, you want to talk about
So
that?
we have a little more than 700,000 in the repair reserve. Because remember that we took money out of that and put it into the capital reserve. And we have, I'm gonna give you an approximate amount of a little more than $3 million in unappropriated fund balance that could be used in emergency.
And if not used in an emergency at the end of the year, where does that funding go, or does it just get spent down?
No, it doesn't get spent down. It stays there as unappropriated fund balance, and it's available to be used in the future if needed for any event, any emergency. That's why it is there. It's set aside basically for emergency purposes.
So we maintain it at 3 million, and then the interest ends up going into the capital reserve?
Nope, we maintain it at 4% of the budget. All right, so that number, if your budget goes up, that number will increase this year. Any interest that is earned on that goes into the general fund and then would go into excess fund balance that would go to the capital reserve, correct?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're back to east side, west side, north, second floor, first floor. So we're looking at, for those of you in the room, this piece of paper, which is the diagram that shows us the various labs. And could you?
That's when keep them.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so this should be a familiar diagram to everybody. So so the west side, right? We can do a project in which we do all the labs on the west side or all the labs on the east side. And whichever one we do the other one next year. Right? So the question is, do we want to do all the second floor one year and all the third floor the next year? Or do we want to do, yes?
I was just gonna say, wouldn't it make more sense construction-wise to do floor by floor rather than have construction going on 2 floors, 1 wing? For the kids to be able to.
Mr. Messina, what?
I would recommend that you do an east wing or a west side. The reason being is that when you're doing pipe penetrations through the floor, the science rooms here are stacked pretty much above one another. So it would make more sense to take a wing, a half of the hallway, and do second and third floor at the same time. That would just be my recommendation.
Okay, any comments? Yes.
Yeah, shouldn't we first make a decision whether or not we could do all or part of it? And then how it's done becomes the application of this. So are we in agreement that the whole project should be done or part of it should be done?
We're not, we're revisiting that.
Yeah,
right
one
now.
time, yeah.
Yeah,
For sake of transparency, I tell you right now, I'm biased. So put as a retired scientist, I'm biased, and I want it all done. Because look at those labs and the condition of those labs, I'm absolutely appalled. And I think if we just went through the numbers and we saw that we can do everything from the reserve account, and I would strongly recommend that's what we do.
All right. All right, so let's look at the pictures of the labs for just a minute. Luke, can you walk us, just walk us through the, open up a picture and then proceed forward and we'll.
Yes.
Okay, so. There, okay, so sometimes we have sinks that don't have faucets anymore. Right, sometimes we don't have the stub of a faucet. Yeah, so we have a lot of cabinet top damage. Right, keep going. And some of the sinks that have good faucets, good looking faucets don't work. Sometimes there's no water coming out of them. All right, good, keep going. And each of these. Yeah, you see see that line? Everything to the left of the line is asbestos bearing tile, where the students are, and we had enough money from the Excel aid project, and that was in 2008, not 2013, to fix the demo station where the teacher stands at in each lab. And so those things work, and I believe since our gas lines failed, we had what do you call the propane tanks, right? So that they could heat Bunsen, run Bunsen burners and stuff. Okay, go ahead. Right, heavy furniture, that sink works. Yeah, it's starting to eat out of the back edge of the sink there, and then look at the cabinetry work. Yeah, go ahead. And yeah, that's the remainder of a sink. Okay. Keep going, there's the line, okay? Yeah, is it heavy furniture? Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, okay, it's a lot of the same. Okay, you see the cabinetry? Right, there should be doors. Okay, so. Yeah, so there should be cupboard doors there. And keep going. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you can kind of see it looks pretty ratchet, and there's I think I have some notes when I walked through. Yeah, but we have a few hoods. That's good. That's good. Right. So sometimes one faucet doesn't work and one faucet does, so they put a hose on the other faucet for the people at the other side of the station to use. Right. So okay, yeah, that doesn't close the door. And yeah, tabletops are getting. Yeah, that needs help.
That's it.
Okay, so I had a document in there that I thought I counted up the sinks that worked versus the sinks that didn't work. But I don't see any reason why. Well,
This one, nice up sink.
yeah, let's look. Right, I went through each lab and counted and turned on the faucet, and if a little dribble of water came out, then it was working sink, and if it didn't, scroll down to the bottom. Right, so east 36 sinks, 30 work, west 30 sinks, 21 work. And second floor 38 sinks, 32 work, and third floor 28 sinks, 19 work. So you get the idea. All right, go ahead and close it.
You know, agreeing with what Walter said, after looking at the pictures, which are very appalling, I just want to mention that even talking to a couple of the students who are in these labs, some of them have actually said that it turned down their feeling to want to do science. And they've changed their ideas about doing a major in college because we don't have fertility. And where you may be looking at a possible person who would go on to do science, goes in a classroom like that and changes their mind and said, no, it's not worth it. Or they decide they want to go to another school. Either one is horrible. So that's why I think this is really, really more important to get the whole thing done right away. It's extremely valuable for the future of Greenburgh Central School District.
Okay, so given that, and we have a recommendation from our architect to go for an east side versus west side, right? Then if I look and I count the number of oh yeah, it's right here, 5 labs on the east side and 4 labs on the west side. So I would suggest that we would do the 5 labs on the east side first because there's more labs, and then the 4 labs on the west side second. So then the 5 labs on the east side is 4,386,830, and then the 4 labs on the west side is $3,500,000, which is okay. So understand, so you said we had 1.5 million that tends to accumulate per year?
Approximately.
Okay, so understand that we don't have $3,500,000 1 year out. But so we're trying to get money from Regeneron, we're trying to get money from Mary Jane Shimsky, but we're not there yet. So there's a risk there that it will take some time, but we can, that's what all right, so it sounds like one option is not as good as the other. Okay, so are we in agreement, first of all, on those options? Are we in agreement to do, so if the option is to do the full 9 yards on the, on the water mains, then, we would do the 5 labs on the east side and raise money as necessary, to do the labs on the west side. Does that make sense?
I
It
thought,
may not be the option you go for.
I thought we just went through the exercise and said there's enough money.
Not everybody is in agreement.
Okay, what I'm
Like,
saying, yeah,
we're still,
yeah,
Right.
like, we're fleshing out the options,
Right.
I think, and then
okay, so,
probably gonna vote.
okay, so
I think,
one option is that there's enough money in the reserve to do it in 1 year. That's one option.
Mhm,
And you're presenting a second option to
mhm.
split it up over 2 years, so that's correct.
That is correct, and we don't have enough money for the remaining science labs that is naturally generated in the course of an additional year. So it might take a couple of years to get the science labs together.
Unless we haven't even discussed about wrapping it into a bond.
That is correct. So once the other projects, the roof project and then the track project and the energy performance contract and everything get done and people can look at the stuff that we have done with our money, then they're probably going to be more willing to spend money on, yes, so we could float a small bond for a science lab projects at the 2-year point, yes.
God bless you.
Megan has her hand.
Yes, Megan.
You gotta get here.
So I just want to kind of personal preference at this point in time is do the fire lines for yellow, green, purple,
Mhm.
and then do all of the science labs, which then we will raise the money for the following year to do red and blue, and we will complete both projects in full.
That's an option, yes. Okay, and
So in essence, in 2 years' time worth of funding, right? It's not going to take that for work completion, but in 2 years' time worth of funding, we have completed both projects.
that is correct.
So that is where my preference currently lies.
All right. So let's see.
So trustee Warner, was Ms. Hack saying what if we did the yellow and only the portion of the green that gets us to the V and the purple? Would that be that would be 700, 1.1. Mike, would that be about 1.3 million if we only did the portion of the green that got us to the V so we could do the purple? You're on mute.
You're muted.
Mike, you're muted.
Muted.
Mike.
Yeah.
Sorry. I would cut that green budget in half just to be conservative. And carry that additional money into the other two.
1.1, that'd be about 1.3, one little more than 1.3.
We don't need the green in half. If we do yellow, green, purple as it stands, that's 1.6 million. And then we still have the funds to do the 7 million for the science labs in full. The following year, we'll have the 1.15 or 1.5 for the red and blue.
Yes, that is an option. So I believe we were trying to construct a different option. And then we're going to choose amongst the options. And you're telling me, we're about to vote on that in just a second here. But all right, so you're constructing a different option. So you said.
So Megan wants to do yellow, she wants to do the yellow, green, and purple.
Yes,
at 1.6.
yes.
Okay, and then what portion of the science labs?
It would, funding wise, we could do the full science labs for the budget that we currently have. And then the following year, we can do red and blue.
No, we couldn't do the 7.4 million for the science labs.
If you do the
Plus
rest.
that is 9 million. We don't have 9 million.
No, because remember the 800,000 for the 1.6 million for yellow, green, and purple is really only 900,000 or 800,000, right?
900,000. You're right. You're right.
Right,
Because we
800's
already have 800,000.
800's already in the capital fund.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we
So
skip
that
it.
leaves 2.8,
Labs.
and then 7.4 is 8.2. Yeah. First thing on the list.
That's in the range now.
And don't forget that account is earning interest at 4.79%, so that's a lot of interest.
That's
on
a lot of
$11
interest.
sitting there, so.
Yep. Okay, so,
Sarah.
Sarah?
Hi, I apologize if someone asked this before, but in order for this to go to SED for approval, the science labs, we have to have the money already, or can we be kind of like, oh, well, we're gonna get the extra funds from extra end of year balance? Because
You have to know where you're getting the money from because you have to put that on the forms.
okay, got it.
Can't be future money.
Okay, because it seems like there is definitely gonna be future money. So, okay, thank you.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
If I understand, the last proposal was to take blue out to save money. Okay,
Blue and red.
well, with these proposals, we always have to look back and say, what is the effect on timing? The response, as the fire chief pointed out. And that was one of the reasons why he pushed purple up, so to reduce the timing.
Right.
So I'm not clear what the effect will be if we reduce blue on overall response time. So that's something we have to consider. I mean, the dollars make sense, but we have to figure what effect that has on response time.
Didn't he say he wouldn't need as many fire trucks to change, you know what I mean?
Yes.
If blue and red were the only two though. Not the.
That's correct, Lisa. And also the blue line is really serving no building structures out there. It's just to get from one point to the next. That hydrant is just on the road on your property line.
Okay.
So if you were trying to,
Okay.
if you're trying to get from here to here, then yeah, this reduces the distance, but this purple line does the same thing.
I'm convinced.
Okay. All right, so are we constructing a fourth option or not? Okay, so I think we should vote. Does anybody have any further questions?
Wait, so we're voting on doing yellow, green and purple at 1.6, subtracting out 800,000 because that's already in the capital fund. And
That's
doing
option one.
all of the science labs at 7.4 for 8.2 million.
And option, let's see. Do you see any advantage to delaying the science lab project altogether? No? Don't like that, Sarah?
Is our decision going to, either way, going to affect what's happening in January? Like, is January getting pushed?
No.
So there's, yeah, we.
No, that where you're trying to make a decision so we can go in January. The board has to pass a resolution at the next board meeting So we can get this all together, so we can do the proper advertising, et cetera, for January.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so then, Gabriella?
Sorry, just a quick question. Where my thoughts are right now, regardless, science labs, hydrants, any project, right? Piecemealing usually ends up in the cost of a project being larger than anticipated. Is that
Correct.
something that's factored in to the numbers that we were discussing earlier?
Yes, we have one column for 2025 costs and one column for 2026 costs. So the second half of the project, yeah, we use different numbers.
Got it. Apologies. I'm on my phone, so I didn't see that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so option one is yellow, green, and purple at 1.6 million, 800,000 of which we already have, and 7.4 million for all science labs. And then option two is east, then west, right? Split in the science labs and complete or original water main project.
And for that option, David, you're saying east. What do you mean by east first? Like in a certain year?
So we have
Like this year would be?
east, right? So it's this side of the building, the east side of the building. So
Right,
you end up with these three labs on the second floor and these two labs on the third floor.
okay, but
So
you said-
216, 214, and 212, and
Yeah.
314 and 312.
you said east then west, but you meant
East then west. East
You mean with the
West
gap?
at another
Like,
time.
Thank you.
West at another
That's
time,
what-
not
at another
now.
time. Right.
East now with what fire hydrants? What
Two.
colors?
I think
The
it-
entire original
Oh,
All
2.9 million,
All colors.
all colors of 2.9 million with the waters coming in from Pinewood and just flowing,
Got
right,
it.
maximum pressure,
Maximum.
water flow.
That's even
And we didn't like splitting or delaying the science lab project and doing nothing, and we don't have another option. Okay, so it's down to two. Okay, so
could we just ask if anyone had any alternative ideas?
that,
Because I know there were questions
sure, go
about the
ahead.
budget or a bond. I'm just wondering if anybody felt strongly about an option that wasn't written down on the agenda. Seems like, okay,
Right, that was the option for other, right?
Right.
We're gonna just construct another one. Okay, so,
Trustee Warren, could you just redo those numbers again of what they were for the two options? I lost something in the translation there for what the totals came out today.
okay, option one is the 1.6 for the yellow, green, and purple. When 800,000 of that goes away, and then 7.4 for all the labs. And then option two, we're gonna go east side first, 5 labs at a cost of 4.3 million. And west side will be at the higher cost of 3.5 million. Three, 3.5. And then it's the full 2.9 for the water main. Okay. So. Gabriella. Would you prefer that we do that we split the water main project? Or that we split the science lab project?
My preference is to split the science lab project.
Okay, so that's,
Two.
yeah, we'll call it two. Two. Megan Hack. Would you prefer that we split the water main project or split the science lab project?
Split the water main project.
That's one. Sarah Lazari. Would you prefer that we split the water main project or split the science lab project?
Split the water main project.
That's one. Is Linda Lee here?
No.
No, okay. Katie McGee, would you prefer that we split the water main project or split the science lab project?
I'm gonna say split the water main project.
Okay. Donya Mans is not here.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Steve Morton, split the water main project or split the science lab project?
Split the water main.
Okay. Jessica Muldoon.
I'm here, thank you. I really appreciate Megan's further analysis and giving us a timeline, so I am going to say split the water main.
Faisal is not here. Walter Simon, split the water main project or split the science lab project?
Water main.
Chris Fallon, not here. And I'll split the water main.
Miss, trustee Warren, you do have somebody else up there. I don't know if that's Denise Allen.
Anybody I missed?
I don't think she's.
Yeah, she's not, she's not a voting member.
No, but I'm all in agreement.
Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Split water main. And 1 for split science labs. Okay, we have our agreement. We're going to give those two options to the Board of Education, and we're going to tell them what our preferred option was and by how much. And so the major task for this evening is done. Thank you, everybody. Go ahead, Megan.
When it's getting presented to the board, can we just make sure to emphasize that 1 year later we'll be completing the water main project with funds that we anticipate receiving, just so that that's clear that both projects will be completed within a 2-year budgetary timeframe?
Yes.
Good point.
Second. Yeah. We will make that clear. All right. We will now continue with the reporting part of our agenda. Minutes. For those of you with packets, the minutes are at the end. So we're just going to look at these for a minute. This is October 10th. Take a look and see if there's anything that you wish to change. And go ahead and scroll down. Okay, there's the PBS report on all the major projects. And then we have the local stuff, the minor repairs, the Tropics Country Club, haven't put the sidewalk in, but they've started their project. And the mansion, we wanted to figure out how much it would cost to upgrade the monument for the 100th birthday of the founding of the American Ballet Theater. And that's it. So does anybody see anything that they wish to change? Or they got left out, or did anybody's name get misspelled at the front end? Katie McGee, IE. Messina, 2 S's. Denise Alamo is 2 S's. Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to,
She's 2 N's also.
who's 2 N's?
Yeah, 2 N's, 2 S's.
2 N's, okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to adopt these minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Project status. Okay, bring up the BBS report. Try and make it a little bigger, yeah, yes. Okay, lead us through. Mike?
Okay. This will be fairly quick because there's not that much that's changed since the last month's meeting. The Woodland Security Vestibule is still with the attorneys. I believe that the second contractor that is being brought on board, it's just their insurance is just being reviewed, but that should be happening hopefully quickly, and you'll see work starting again maybe next month. The roof at the mansion, we're just in the closeout procedures there with them. We're still waiting for a copy of the 20-year NDL warranty from the contractor, but he has been working on this punch list, and all the additional windows in the attic were replaced and completed a couple of weeks ago. Phase 1 capital, we're in a closeout phase with everybody. We got some paperwork back today for that, so we'll continue processing those contractors accordingly. The water main fire project we just talked about, so we'll skip over that one. The Bailey Auditorium is substantially complete. The additional carpeting has been installed. If you don't mind scrolling down just a little bit for me. There's a PO that's going to be cut for, there was some missing ADA companion seating that goes in the front of the house. That will be installed in the future once the PO is cut. I think it's like 4 to 6 weeks for those seats to arrive. But I think I haven't heard anything. Dennis, I think they're using it. Everything's great. There's no issues. We're going to close out that contractor shortly. The tennis courts, running track, and the Woodlands roof and Bailey roof is currently out to bid, and bids will be opening next Thursday. So we'll see how we do with the bids, the results next week. If you want to go to the next page. Thank you. The Highview window replacement, we had our kickoff meeting. We should be getting shop drawings, I think, by the end of this month. And then once those are reviewed and approved, you're looking at plus or minus 16 weeks after those shop drawings are approved before the windows will be delivered. So that's going to put us someplace in this spring, which is what we anticipated. The Angie performance contract, that's about 40% complete. They're working along nicely over there. The Bailey Auditorium, the roof is complete, and the contractor is just about closed out on that job as well. So we'll be taking that off the list shortly. The roof replacement for the flat roof, we talked about that. That's out to bid currently for Bailey. The science labs, we got SED review was completed 3 weeks ago, and the permit should be coming to the district shortly. And we'll coordinate with Dennis on how we're going to bid that project, being it's such a small project, and coordinating the work. I'm presuming it's going to be a summer 2025 project when the kids are out of the building. The roof replacement at Highview and at Jackson were submitted to SED on 9/19.
Wait, wait.
Yep.
Could you tell me a little bit about, it says a gas service reconstruction? I know that the energy performance guys were bringing us a gas line. Is that related?
No, unrelated. Unrelated. This is just to service that room in 314 in the building. There was some issues there. You didn't have any gas going into that space, so that'll change out the piping. I'll add another solenoid valve and an emergency shut off. I don't believe that's being covered with the EPC. That's more infrastructure.
Right. The question is where the gas is coming from.
So what we're tapping in from once you're already into the building and in the hallway someplace. I'm not all that familiar with the drawings, but it's not coordinated or I shouldn't say coordinated. It's not part of the energy performance contract. I believe theirs was more stuff outside the building. They're not coming into the building at all. Definitely not in the hallway where the science lab is.
Okay, so where is the gas coming from?
I don't know, Dennis, do you have more information on that?
They have a propane tank.
It's a propane tank.
Got it. It's not natural gas, it's propane.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Propane tank.
Yep, I couldn't remember that. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the roof projects at Highview and Jackson are at SED. Hopefully we get a permit in the end of the first quarter, beginning of second quarter next year. And then the Woodland Science Labs we just talked about tonight as well. So we'll wait to hear what happens in January with that.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. And we move on to smaller projects. Dennis, take it away.
ECP main building, playground services, map
agenda.
Go ahead. We had some matting installed on both playgrounds. LF Jackson, both new boilers are running. We've had some occasional trouble with one boiler locking out. They're resetting and making adjustments. Highview.
We have a raised hand.
Yep. Highview, both boilers.
Trustee Warner, do you want to?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Gabriella.
Oh.
Sorry, when the word boilers popped up, but if you want to go through Highview and then I'll ask my question afterwards.
I have a question though about Leah Jackson.
Yes.
A parent had asked me, well, I also see here that there's electronic heating controls work. Somebody, she thought it was, she said there was like HVAC work being done.
Correct, through the energy performance.
And so just wanted reassurance that it's the beginning of winter season like that, the heat isn't gonna get interrupted.
He has to be working from October 15th to May 15th.
Yeah, the heat is,
It's on.
the heat is
So it
gonna
won't
work.
be
Some
interrupted
of
by
the,
this work.
yeah, some of the controls are lacking, like where they might not have full control of, you turn a thermostat on, you might have to open your window because it's not hooked up to the building maintenance system yet, where you'll be able to maintain the temperatures easier. It's kind of like what we have now with this building we have. You turn the
Right.
boilers on for a little while until it gets too hot, and then we just, turn them on manually, okay, so it's.
So at worst, it would be the status quo.
Correct.
until it's done.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So what we have is Highview, both new boilers are running. We've had occasional trouble with the one boiler locking out. With the new system, they're resetting and making adjustments. Highview, the bids came back from the window load. We talked about that. Let's see, Bailey.
Wait, Gabriella had a question and after, yeah.
Gabriella.
Yes, a question regarding the boilers at Highview. What you just described, was this something that happened in the last, it wouldn't have been this week, it would have been last week?
Yes, when it was cold, we had some difficulty. We had one of the boilers was losing the prime of the fuel. After it sat idle for a little bit, we'd have to reset, or hit the reset button 3 or 4 times before it came in. Before it would be up and running, they installed a check valve that seemed to help.
Okay.
And then the other boiler, they had, the burner was faulty. They changed the burner out, so now we now have 2 burners running. It's
Got it. Because I happened to be in the building last week volunteering for the book fair. And there was a smell of kind of like burnt oil, more kind of like that smell in the building, which kind of just raised a concern because the kids, it was during school hours. It was brought to Mr. M's attention and he said he had communicated out. But if, I mean, I understand things can come up, but is that something that, does it have to happen during school hours? Again, the smell was pretty strong, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
Finding the diesel fuel in it, they must have, had a couple of a cup or something out. That's, it doesn't take much for the smell to permeate through the building. That's not something that normally should happen though, unless it's an emergency. If there's no heat in the building, that's why they were probably doing that.
Got it. And then I believe something came up again. I was volunteering as well yesterday, and something was mentioned. Trying to remember, also in regards to the boilers. So, I mean, are they? And was it yesterday? I'm sorry, this week is a blur for me. Are any issues that you mentioned? Has it all been resolved?
Yeah, we had some issues, with the new boilers. There were some bugs that they definitely had to work out, and we seem to have it under control now. It was cold one morning, until we had to call the contractors and, hey, listen, get the guys here as soon as possible. Luckily, it hasn't been too cold yet, and the boilers have been running the last several cold days now. We haven't needed them in the last few days, but hopefully they get the bugs out.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, RJ Bailey, wall pads, been ordered. They came out and measured again. We're still awaiting delivery. We talked about the carpet in the auditorium. That's finished. BBS, we talked about the report regarding the vestibule. And the energy performance contract, the lighting is about 80% completed here. We talked at about the street light at the intersection of the driveway. We're gonna handle the trench work in-house and have the electrician wired up. Item 4 on the football field, build potholes, paving costs of excess of $200,000. Recommended to defer until the EPC project is completed. They've started the ground clearing for the solar carports. There was a big pile of debris in the backyard. It's been pushed out of the way to make room for the solar array. The installation should begin shortly for the footings. Mansion.
Gabriella, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
On the solar panels, will that be, I understand that there will be this energy storage facility that's gonna be constructed on site.
Battery storage, yes.
Yeah, and we have battery energy storage facility, with this. Those solar panels will be used to charge the battery, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. One thing I just want to point out that the state requirements for this storage requirement less stringent than we have in the town. Because in the town of those storage, we require a concrete wall around it because they have been known to catch fire with the concrete walls that go up instead of spreading. That's required in the town. I know the state doesn't require it because when that law was looked at, we looked at the state law and we determined that the state law was just too liberal. So yes, this is on school grounds, but just be aware of the political implications that people in the town are saying, why is the school doing something that has less safety, security than the town, and they're doing it with children. So that's, it's up to you to make that decision. You just be aware of the political consequences of doing it.
Did Gabriella have a question also, or should we?
No, she's done.
We talked about the mansion. Teacher changes, no change, the bus garage. Consider repaving the electrical charging station, it's been on there, still on there, no change to that. That's all we have there. We'd like to note that, the Hartsdale side of the fire district, we did, do our yearly, fire inspections to obtain the certificate of occupancy. That was at the, teacher center building, ECP, transportation, Woodlands High School, Middle School, and Highview Elementary School. They also did do the mansion, but the mansion is an unoccupied building. But we did have our fire inspections. Fire inspections went well. One or two things that we had to change out, maybe a fire extinguisher here, an extension cord is generally fixed the first day. Woodlands had a few items, mostly regarding contractors. Like a ceiling that was open from the night before that we closed off, but all those items have been taken care of.
Okay.
So that's, the Hartsdale side of the fire district.
Okay, other concerns? Anybody? Okay, so I believe we're done. Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting? Do I hear a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Yeah, well.
And it's 8:21.
We got a lot.
Hallelujah. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy
Thank you,
Thanksgiving.
Mike.
One thing